Hey, it's Ashley Walkning here with another episode of Mindful Morning, and today I want to talk with you about how to stop saying yes to things just because you feel bad. And this is something that I noticed that I was doing a lot, and I had this belief that if I said no to somebody, it meant somehow that I was a not very nice person, or it meant that I was a selfish person. And I remember it was around Christmas time a number of years ago that I was kind of reevaluating how the year had gone. And then I noticed that there was a ridiculous amount of time that I was spending doing other things for other people, free things for other people, and really pushing all of my own priorities off on the back burner. So I decided I really needed to have a look at this, and I made a resolution to myself to learn how to start saying no more often in the new year. And as I learned how to say no, I actually learned something interesting about saying yes to things just because you feel bad. And that is that really the only thing that is behind that is fear. It's either fear of pissing somebody off because, one of two reasons. Either they've done something for you and that needs to be repaid, or you are the one not showing up in the relationship on equal ground. You know that, they know that. It's this unspoken thing that you're trying to compensate for. Or it's fear of not being liked, fear of being judged, fear of losing somebody's approval. And so what happens is we're in this situation where somebody asks us to do something and we feel the need to say yes even if we don't want to. And we think we're doing it for the other person's benefit, but we're not. We're actually doing it to benefit ourselves because it means we get to avoid feeling uncomfortable. We get to avoid this thing that we don't want to see, whether that is avoid conflict or avoid the feeling of rejection. And we really do a big disservice to the other person, to ourselves, and to the relationship when we do that. It's a disservice to the other person, of course, because if you say yes to something and you can't hold up to your end of the deal, that is going to tick somebody off. It's a disservice to the relationship because even if you commit and you follow through, if it's coming from a place of wanting somebody's approval, wanting to be liked, the other person is not going to be able to communicate it to you, but there will be an unspoken feeling underneath of the relationship that you are playing a role, that you are not being fully yourself. And that's going to block the relationship from ever going any deeper. And it's a disservice to yourself because there's only so much mental and emotional space that you have. There's only so much time that you have. You're going to have to, of course, reshuffle things around in your priorities in order to make room for this. And that's going to lead to frustration, exhaustion, and maybe even resentment. So, you know, unless there's something going on in the relationship, like what I said of you not showing up fully and on being on equal ground, then the person is actually going to be a lot more forgiving and a lot more respectful of the fact that you say no than they are if you are just doing it to, be a people pleaser. As long as you are compassionate and kind and honest about the way that you go about saying no, uh, it will benefit the relationship a lot more to do that than to do it from a place of than to say yes from obligation. So I want to give you a few tips if you find that you are saying yes to things simply because you feel bad. Tip number 1 is to know your priorities. If you don't know your priorities, then you're going to be dragged around by other people's. And if you think about it, if you had a doctor's appointment to go to, or if you had like your son's soccer game that came up and somebody asked you to do something during that time, you may feel bad saying no, but you wouldn't feel guilty. You wouldn't feel like you're being selfish or a bad person, and you wouldn't care so much about, being a people pleaser. So, the more clear you are about your own priorities, the easier it's going to be for you to say no and to commit to those priorities. The second tip that I have is to know your Achilles heel. Everybody has an Achilles heel. We all have one. If your Achilles heel is that you are trying to avoid conflict or avoid rejection by saying yes when you don't really want to, then you're really setting yourself up to be disappointed. You're really setting yourself up to try and achieve the impossible. So, and people will respect you more if you are authentic and honest than they will if you're just trying to brush things under the carpet or make them feel a particular way about you. And tip number 3 is to learn how to actually say no. Guilt has this feeling underneath of it. Inside, it feels constrained, it feels bound up, it feels weighty. But on the outside, our body is trying to display the exact opposite. We may be even more upright, and our voice may even go up. Oh, yeah, sure, I would love to. Sounds great, right? Have you ever done that? So we're in this battle with our own selves and trying to compensate, trying to not show how we really feel, when actually it's better just to be transparent about it, to acknowledge the situation, to acknowledge how you're feeling in that situation, and to be direct with the other person. So, for example, something like, this project really deserves a lot of attention and time, and I feel really guilty right now saying no. But I'd rather be honest with you than commit to something and then not be able to follow through and disappoint you. So those are your 3 tips for the day, right? Tip number 1 is to understand your priorities, know what those priorities are. Tip number 2 is to recognize if this is an Achilles heel for you, if this is you trying to avoid conflict or avoid rejection. And tip number 3 is to actually practice saying no in a kind, compassionate, honest way, which it's helpful if you acknowledge the situation, acknowledge how you feel about the situation, and just be direct with the other person. And as always, you can get the most out of these conversations if you actually go and apply it. If you haven't already opted in for the Mindful Morning Toolbox, then click on the link here, jump over there and get yourself started. Inside that toolbox is where you'll find all the actionable resources, exercises, cheat sheets that go along with the Mindful Morning episodes. It's absolutely free, so there's no reason that you should be missing out on it. And if you're loving these Mindful Morning episodes, please leave a comment, give me a review, share it with others. Help me get these conversations out there. You never know what someone might need to hear on any given day. Okay, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.